everybody, welcome back to Jody Hughes Music, and in today's lesson we're going to talk about Mixolydian. It is a mode, and I don't know how much you already know about modes, but I'm going to try to break this down and make it as easy as possible. I'm going to kind of assume you already know what a major scale is and how to at least play or know the notes in a G major scale. I'm going to go through a number of things in this video. We're going to talk about how you get the Mixolydian mode, what songs are a Mixolydian, so you can go listen and hear the Mixolydian. You know, it's like music's very difficult to talk about. Sometimes you're better off just going and listening to it. And then also, once you learn this thing, what in the world do you do with it? Where do you put it to use? Because there's so many people out there that they learn all these modes, they spend hours and hours learning them, but then they're like, man, I don't know what to do with this thing. You know, can you help me here? So that's the point of this video. If you go to my Patreon site, I'm going to have a PDF of my basic fingers of the Mixolydian mode on the banjo. So that's going to be accessible to my members. I don't remember how many fingerings there are, but there's just a couple, and that'll be on the site. And once again, thank every one of you that has subscribed. It absolutely means the world to me. And those of you that are watching at home, it keeps me going here and putting out new stuff. So let's go ahead and get into the Mixolydian mode. Okay, so what in the world is a Mixolydian mode? Sounds foreign. Sounds like, man, I don't know what in the world that sounds like. So it's a Greek word, and basically, if we look at our major scale, our G major scale, it's going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. F sharp is the 7th note in the G major scale. So to make a Mixolydian mode, all you're going to do is you're going to go to that 7th note and turn the F sharp back into an F natural. So our G Mixolydian mode is going to be G, A, B, C, D, E, F. That F is the most important note there. That is what makes it Mixolydian. I always tell everybody, think about it like a G7 chord. Knowing your G7 chords up and down your instrument are going to help you be able to visualize this and target those F naturals, okay, if you will. So now that you know what in the world a G Mixolydian is, it's simply a major scale with a flatted 7th. At least in our modern terms. Back in the old Renaissance days, and I love Renaissance music actually, oddly enough, they had very specific rules and ways you had to play the notes, and we've kind of moved beyond that, so to speak, and there's not so many rigid rules. So once you know the mode, you're free to kind of go run up and down and explore as you wish. So let me give you some songs to listen to so you know what in the world it sounds like. And some of these you're going to be familiar with. So first and foremost, the old Bill Monroe song, Wheelhouse. That's my best interpretation. G, F, okay. So that's the first one that comes to mind. And then Salt Creek, which I'm going to be playing in this video in the key of G, but Salt Creek is usually in the key of A Mixolydian, so, or the mode of A Mixolydian if you want to be specific. So Wheelhouse, Salt Creek, another one, Red Hair Boy. And one of my favorites is old Joe Clark, and I've got a video coming up pretty soon here, a performance of me playing a new version of Old Joe Clark. But one of my favorite rock tunes of all time is actually in, I think it's D Mixolydian. It's the song by the Eagles, Seven Bridges Road. I love teaching that song because it's such an easy one to jam on once you know the D Mixolydian mode. So I was trying to think of some other ones. There's also one other one that I left out is the song by the Grateful Dead called Fire on the Mountain. And it's literally just the 2 chords, and you can just jam on Mixolydian on that one. And another one by one of my favorite musicians of all time, George Benson, the old song on Broadway. That's in Mixolydian as well. So go listen to those tunes. That'll get the sound in your head. So the next thing I want to talk about in this video is when can I use this Mixolydian mode once I learn it. So let's get into that. Okay, so I'm going to go through about 5 different ways that you can put the Mixolydian mode to use, and then after we go through this, we're going to get to playing it on our instrument, and I'm going to teach you what exactly to do with this. So first and foremost, you can use Mixolydian over modal songs. So once again, songs like Salt Creek, Old Joe Clark, and Big Mon. I'm going to be using Salt Creek later in this video to demonstrate where to put this in a modal song. Seven Bridges Road is another one. Secondly, you can put this over 5 chords in major keys. So if I'm in the key of C major, it turns out that I can use a G Mixolydian over that G chord, or if you want to, G7. So in the key of C, you may run a G Mixolydian over the G chord, the 5 chord. So 5 going to 1, basically. Thirdly is one that is less talked about, is I like to use it over 2 major chords. So Everybody's heard one of those old gospel hymns that goes G, A, and it goes to the A chord. That would be the 2 chord, G, A. And I like to run the Mixolydian mode over the 2 chord in a major key. So you could play A Mixolydian, and then you would, of course, probably go to D, and then it would go to G. That would be moving through your fifths. It's kind of interesting. You could literally take the Mixolydian and run it through the circle of fifths. You could go A Mixolydian, D Mixolydian, and then G major, and then that would give you back to your home base. Okay, the fourth example is over the 1 dominant 7. So like, let's say you've got G, G, C. Well, you could play G to G7 to C, and then if you put a G7 in there, you can play G Mixolydian. So basically, whenever you're in a key over the 1 chord, if you put a Mixolydian there, it will pull you into the 4 chord, okay? Next one is simply to impart a blues flavor over a major chord. So, if I'm just in the key of G and I want to, I may be playing out of G major, but I want a blues sound, well, you can put that Mixolydian, you can put that flatted 7th in there. That flatted 7 is going to impart a little bit of a blues sound to that. So once again, to wrap this up, 1, modal songs, 2, 5 chords, 3, 2 major chords, 1 dominant 7 chords, and then also over blues flavored songs. All right, so those are the main uses of Mixolydian. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this, and I'm going to use a modal song first, and I did this kind of at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to use the old fiddle tune Salt Creek, and I'm going to play it in G instead of A, and hopefully you know the B section. I'm just basically going to be looping that B section because I think that's the easiest place to demonstrate this. So it's basically 2 bars of G, 2 bars of F, and then back up to G. So something like this. Now, all I did is I created this little theme. If you want to slow the video down and learn that, you can. It doesn't matter. You don't have to play exactly what I'm playing, but... And then I took that theme and I just simply slid it down in the mode. So here I started on B, and then I'm going to slide it down and I'm going to start on A. And I could have kept going. It could have went... And that's going to bring me to my next point. So over modal type songs, what I like to do is I like to create these really short fragments, and they can be as simple as like 3 notes. It could just be, and then I like to move them down in the mode. And so out of that, I'll just kind of mess around with that. And then of course you can create variations, but going back to my original theme, sorry. Hey, it's Mixolydian, man. Don't be putting that F sharp in there. And then move down. And then I just made that up, so just manipulating it through the mode. So what I would say to you is that if I'm going to play over like a modal song like Salt Creek, it's just generate some nice melodies out of your Mixolydian scale, or Mixolydian mode. I'm using that one and then this one. Is my go-to places right now. So and I kind of like starting, even though it's not in the chord, I like starting on that C because it's a 4th. And I might even do stuff like... and I'm certainly conscious of chord tones, but modes are a little bit different approach. I'm not really thinking so much chordally as simply just melodic themes. So once again... And you can move around here. There's also a Mixolydian mode here, of course. And, up there, I was doing... And I'm just jamming out on this. let me give you some just basic little patterns. So one of the ones that I like to use here is I might just do something like this. I mean, let's go ahead and hit that F natural because that makes it really sound like the mode. So let's make it as easy as possible. So I'm just going G, G, F, G. Whoa, it sounds like a rock tune. Whoa. Now here, just very simple little theme, F, F, E, F. So here I went G, G, F, G. Don't, no copyrights violation, sorry. F, F, E, F. And so I can build on it, and I actually can combine two themes. Like I may have this one, and then I might go back to, and then, and I can juggle two themes back and forth if I want to. It's very difficult for me to demonstrate this by myself, but the other impact of this is that I don't necessarily even have to play anything that resembles the chords. I could just simply jam on the song like I could. Want to end on a chord tone like a G, B, or D for that G, but other than that, there, I'm just jamming on the mode the whole time. So my advice to you is just kind of create some licks, some short fragments, and then move them up and down the mode. If you want an easy one, I just had one of my students today work on this, is G, A, G, A, B, A. So like this. Short fragments, 2, 3 notes, no more than 4 notes, and just make up some stuff in the mode. And basically these are called sequences, and move them through like that. Okay, let's move on to some actual major key uses. So let's say I was in the key of C. You have a G7 or a G as the 5 in that key. So I can use the G Mixolydian here and walk me into a C chord. So I don't know, I'll play spinning wheel. So there. And Mixolydian works nice because you have that 7th that likes to resolve down to the 3rd maybe. If I really wanted to finalize it, I could push the 7th down to the 3rd of C. But there, all I did is D to C. That's a common resolution. Another thing to remember is that this B is a half step away from the C. So any little lines that are like, it'll push you into the C. There I'm just repeating notes. So out of G Mixolydian, I can make up all sorts of little licks that will lead me into a C. So I don't know, let's go back up here. So now maybe G Mixolydian. And rather than sound like I'm just running straight up it, and there's my flatted 7th, by the way, leading me to the C. So I'm just going up the Mixolydian. And then when I got to here, I did a root change, so to speak. A, B, A, G, F. And you may have to add some rhythm. You're better off adding some rhythm. You don't want it to be just straight 8th notes, right? So in 5 chords, I use Mixolydian all the time. Let's switch to the key of G for a second. D7. You've got a D Mixolydian here. this video is the point of this is it unfortunately can't be exhaustive and show you the Mixolydian in every single key, but there is a Mixolydian that runs here, D7. So these little things fall great on the banjo. D7 to G major there. So that is your second use of Mixolydian. The next one I want to talk about are two major chords, and most of you have probably heard some old gospel song that goes to an A major to a D and then back to G. So I like to use A Mixolydian here. I'll go down to the A, and then my Mixolydian, you know, there. And that'll carry me into a D chord nicely. Something like that. Even like theme time. And then D. You can use it wherever you want to, and you know, as long as it's a 2 major there. I was trying to think of another song with 2 major. You know, even, like I think it was my Bells of St. Mary's recording. So over the A sometimes. And then that pushes me back into it like that. So there's lots of songs. Remington Ride's a good one by Don Reno. I just got to talk about Don Reno. I love Don Reno. All right, let's move on. So the other one that is going to be more common is the 1 dominant 7. So like, let's see, you had a song G, G, C. You can go G, G7 to C. You know, you could go. There's like a blues flavor there, but maybe a C to a C, or let's make it shorter, like let's just say 2 bars. So there I ran. Hey, I'm back to the key of C. And if you haven't noticed already, like descending lines work great. You know, they work really good on Mixolydian. Not to say that we don't ascend Mixolydian, but because we certainly do, but I'd say descending lines are really common. In jazz, they like to add chromaticism. Something like that. We'll get into that later on. You can go watch my bebop video if you're interested in that. That's kind of what that is about in some ways. The other thing too is if I have like a song and I just want it to sound like blues. Hammer. You know, the idea is if I'm down here. This one falls under the fingers really nice. You have 12. Sometimes I add a trill. I'm teaching this stuff. I use it all the time. That's part of the video. Is I'm just kind of showing you, you know, part of stuff that makes my own style. But at the same time, I didn't invent any of this stuff. It's stuff that you can go read about. And you know, you can listen to players, and that was the other thing I was going to encourage you to, as far as those 5 chords, going back to the 5 chord, is go through a book like a lick book, or you know, I have these books of like Clifford Brown and Charlie Parker. I just go through and I see what they played on the 5 chord, or maybe you could go through, you know, Bela Fleck. There's probably a Bela Fleck or Scott Vestal book out there, and see, you know, what do they play on G7 in the key of C, or what do they play on G in the key of C? You know, they're probably playing something out of those notes if they're not like rolling, if they're doing like a single string thing. So that's the other point here, is just kind of show you what in the world you can do with this. All right, so hopefully you got something out of this video. If you have any questions, I know it's a lot of material, and unfortunately we can't start at square one and go step by step. It would just be like, hours and hours of information, but hopefully I've given you enough that you can kind of just watch, slow things down, and spur some ideas in your own mind. And my advice is just noodle around. Like, don't think that it has to be some exact thing. Like I'll just sit and say G7 and I'll create little melodies. Maybe I'll demonstrate. So like, and here's the thing: is do this on one string too. Like I'm going to start on B. G. And I just noodle around and make up little fragments. Like they're not like long. I don't go on and on. Short fragments. I think that's the key with these things. Now, at the same time, people like John Coltrane, they would run up a scale like really fast and get to a note and then build up on it. That sort of thing. And you can do that sort of thing, but I think is in the beginning, as a beginner, work out some little short fragments. And I like 2 or 3 notes. All right, that is enough from Jody Hughes Music. Really appreciate all the subscribes. Go look at my Patreon page over there. If you really want to become a member of there, just hop on over there. I've got some really cool goodies over there that I haven't necessarily released on YouTube, and I'll have the tabs to some of the stuff in this video. I'm not going to write out everything I play, but I'll give you the shifts and maybe just throw in a couple little licks. I've got a nice little PDF that I created of some just basic licks and Mixolydian licks that I'll throw in there for you as well. But you guys take care. Stay safe out there.